Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about tactical marines or Gabriel Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and would probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win.
Welcome, miniatures fans, to another episode. This will be episode 7 of the Three Grots in a Vox podcast. Today we are talking about Chapter Command, which was kind of new rules that were added to the 9th edition Space Marine Codex. We recently did a tier list on all the relics and warlord traits that the Space Marine Codex and the Blood Angels Codex contain, and we will link that up above if you didn't see that video. But people pointed out that we completely missed or forgot the chapter command stuff, so I am here with...
It was definitely missed. It was very deliberately
We just chose not to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
There was no mistake in there. We looked at it and thought, well, they can only take one thing each. So it's not like you can say, I'd rather take this. You don't get that choice.
And if we'd have done chapter command in that tier list video, that would have been double the length because we're doing a full episode on it now, and that would have been fucking long.
So we
just didn't do it because we chose not to.
Perfect. And so we're doing it now, but we're not tier listing it. We're just going to talk over the options and decide.
It's not a lot of fucking point, is it? How can you tier list like the chapter? They just are what they are. Is it worth taking it or is it not worth taking it?
Very true. And if you enjoy our videos, we do appreciate if you leave a like or comment or consider subscribing as well if you want to see more episodes. We are here live every 2 weeks with a new update, and we talk all things 40k and sometimes other games as well. And sometimes we talk about Star Wars too, because why not? Boba Fett just came out as well, so maybe we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that
spoilers.
Episode was creepy as fuck.
It
was great.
Is that spoilers? Is this you still trying to convince me to care about Star Wars?
Okay.
It's going to happen one day.
Nobody's cared about it since the 90s.
Oh, you want to get in a fight, mate? Seriously, it's not a good way to start off.
Yeah. Well, I thought John was being very professional because I normally just start off with some like base profanity or some sort of pun.
Yeah, we know it.
You pre-recorded the base profanity to happen in the disclaimer, so that's already played, and now we're here.
Now we are here. Great. So thanks for being here, guys. And do you want to get started on chapter command, or do you want to roast Tony a bit more?
Well, I thought we need some more generic bollocks that we normally talk before we actually get on with what we're supposed to be doing.
Listeners,
today's vintage for the beer choice is Buxton Fizzy Water, and I'm very sorry, people. I've got that condition that's going around of I hope it's not COVID. And while I'm waiting for my PCR test, I've had to abstain from the booze.
From raspberry beer and other such things people have cottoned on as being shit that you drink.
I like interesting beer.
Just poor choice, interesting beer, I guess.
It was Christmas, and I thought berries seemed quite Christmassy.
Yeah.
Did it taste Christmassy?
No, it tasted like shit. But that's also why my voice is a little bit funky, viewers. I'm actually disgusting at the moment. But I hope it's not COVID, so that's the...
Okay.
I've had that once, it wasn't fun.
And if all goes well, I will be appearing in the next episode, or possibly the episode before this one, which will be the live stream that you'll be watching a week ago from when this episode airs, on a better camera, so I won't be looking, hopefully, as faded out and shit as I currently do, which would be nice.
Awesome. Is that because I'm actually ill and you just look ill?
Yeah, pretty much, because I've got really shit lighting in this room, and I don't like being stared in the face by a daylight bulb.
Yeah. Welcome to my world. Nice. Okay, so let's jump into chapter command then, and I think we will start with the chapter master.
We will. So here we go. I've put this beautiful picture of your favourite bike, chapter master.
So the short version, for anyone who doesn't know what this is that chapter command are a series of upgrades that GW put in the latest Codex Space Marine, whereby you can beef up your character to be the best one of their kind within the chapter. So where they previously were a captain, they now become the chapter master. Where they previously were a chaplain, they're now the head chaplain of the chapter, and all that kind of stuff. So it gives them extra options and makes them a bit more of themselves. But generally, pretty cool.
Yeah, it gives them access to sort of like a special relic each. And
yeah, they get an ability, an option to take a warlord trait, and an option to take a particular water trait, an option to take a particular relic.
And really what we're looking at is it worth it? Do we like them? Do we think the relic's any good? Do we think the warlord trait's any good, or are we better off for something else? And that's how we're going, I think. So we've got our first one, our chapter master. And how many points is a chapter master, Mark?
Chapter master is 40 points over and above the price of the captain.
That's a lot of fucking points.
It is. But what it does is it takes the captain, takes their ability to grant rerolls of 1 with an aura to core models within 6 inches, and adds the additional ability on the screen right now, helpfully provided by a website.
Wow.
Yeah, basically. And it's cool, because you get the rerolls that you give to everybody anyway, still, as being a captain. This one lets you select a unit of your choice that's either a core or a character, and they can reroll every hit roll, be it a failure or not, be it a 1 or not, just reroll it, which is great.
And do either of you guys run a chapter master often?
No. Yes.
Yes, okay. So I've been running one pretty much the entire edition. It is my one on the screen there. One thing that maybe you don't always think about with this chapter master is that there's 2 reasons that I love the reroll aura the reroll ability, because obviously it has the aura of reroll 1s within 6, but the ability is great for 2 reasons. One is you can kind of use it kind of defensively, and what I mean by that is you could put it on a dreadnought early game, and then your chapter master can obviously move away if it's got a jump pack 14 inches, if it's a jump pack 12 inches, sorry, if it's a bike 14 inches. So you can put it on a fire support unit in turn 1 and then move off. Typically your melee units aren't going to be in combat in turn 1, so it would be kind of wasted otherwise. And then once you get into the mid game, you obviously put it on combat units that are maybe going to leave the chapter master's 6-inch bubble, right? So if you 2 squads of Sanguinius Guard, you need 1 to go left, you need 1 to go right. Chapter master can only go with 1 of them, so the other one gets full hit rerolls. And I think the 40 points you spend on that is kind of worth its weight on gold. If you think about a little bit of maths, if you hit on ballistic skill of 3, that gives you a 66% chance to hit. If you reroll all your misses, that actually increases your chance to hit to 88%. So if you're like a Contemptor Dreadnought with 16 shots, you maybe go from maybe like 11 or 10 hits all the way up to like 15 or 16 hits. And if you're doing that twice per game, and then you're also getting maybe Sanguinius Guard rerolling all their hits at the same 66 up to 88%, or Vanguard Veterans or something, you do that 2 or 3 times through the game. I think the 40 points pays for itself. I think Chapter Master is a very good upgrade for a captain in general. Mitigating
the random nature of dice rolls is a key part of success in the game. Always has been, always will be. Just makes perfect sense. There is one thing to bear in mind in here as a warning, however. If you do this on a model that is off the board, then if they're coming in the reserves because they've got a jump pack or whatever, or you strategic reserves them off and they're coming off from the table edge or something, because you have to select a friendly unit within your command phase to benefit from this buff, if they're off the board, you can't do it because they move on during the movement phase, which is after the command phase. So it's just something to be aware of. If they're coming on via drop pod, then you can't come on via drop pod and still give someone that buff. The rules don't allow it. Also, because it happens in your command phase, the unit that you want to buff will have to be near to you at the start of your turn before the movement phase. So it's worth thinking ahead and planning ahead as to what you're going to position and where to be able to make use of that.
And one other thing to say as well is when you become Chapter Master, you get the Chapter Master keyword, but you do not lose your Captain keyword, which is kind of a problem we've talked about before with, like, Dante, for example, is a Chapter Master, but for some reason he doesn't have the Captain keyword, so you can't include that squad of company veterans without using the battlefield role slot that you would normally get for free by having a Captain. So taking a generic character and upgrading them Chapter Master in some cases here is actually better than picking your named Chapter Master for your faction.
Yes.
Okay, so what do you guys think of the relic and the warlord trait?
Warlord trait is, I suppose it's all right, but it's not one I have ever picked, nor would ever considering picking. Extra command points is all well and good, but there's just other really cool. if there's one thing that Blood Angels have to choose from that is excellent and awesome, it's warlord traits. And this just doesn't quite measure up. Same with the warlord traits that Raven Guard have access to, because that's the other one that I know in detail and can speak on. I would just far rather choose Gift of Foresight is obviously the standout choice of Blood Angels. I'd far rather choose Lord of Deceit or Master of Ambush for Raven Guard ones, and this one just doesn't get a look in, sadly.
Yeah, I think paying 1 CP for a warlord trait that on average gets you back 2.5 CP throughout the battle just doesn't feel like it's worth it. Angel's Artifice. I use Angel's Artifice a lot. I think getting +1 wound and toughness on a character is kind of nice. On the bite character, it puts him at T6, so if you play against Death Guard, that's actually really nice, because in their aura, he's still T5, he's much harder to wound. And if you're playing against anything that's not Death Guard, I kind of hate Toughness 4 Marines. I think they're very easy to kill. There's so many Strength 8 weapons rocking around right now. So giving your jump character Toughness 5, again, I think is actually pretty good. So I like Angel's Artifice. I prefer Armor Indomitus if you're just looking for pure survivability. But I think maybe if a lot of people like to run Armor Indomitus on another character, then I think Angel's Artifice makes your character a good bit more survivable as well. And it also saves you having to take a Storm Shield and puts you on that 2-up save as well.
Yeah, this relic is really cool. I like it a lot. It's great.
So how about yourself, Tony?
I'm on the opposite side of this one because I very rarely run a Chapter Master.
Why?
I don't like them. I think too many points. Now, I've got this horrible inherent hatred of things that cost an awful lot of points, and I'm such a cheap bastard that I never buy upgrades for things. So you look at my army list, they don't have Inferno pistols in them, and I just think that I have trialed him, and I just didn't feel that I got 40 points worth of bonus out of that because that's more than another Sanguinary Guard. Okay, I can put rerolls on my squad of Sanguinary Guard, and they'll go from hitting on. Remember, it's a 2+ in combat if you're near your Chapter Master anyway, to getting a reroll on those ones.
Not strictly true. 2+ if you need your warlord, not your Chapter Master.
Warlord.
Just
because we'll get comments, but you're hitting on 2+ anyway. So is that being able to put that extra bit on it worth the cost of another Sanguinary Guard? I'm not sure that it is. It's the same. Yes, I can put rerolls on my Dreadnought, but it's the cost of. There's not many of these upgrades that go towards having another Dreadnought.
So it's good that it's not an open shut. Yes, it's better.
Yeah. So
it's good
I think they are very, very good.
Choice.
But I do think that I get more value out of 40 points more models than 40 points of reroll.
Fair enough.
So I'm a little bit, and to be honest, it's going to be a running theme throughout all of these today. Yeah. I don't take many of them because I often find that I don't get the points that I would have got from models. Or sorry, the value that I would have got from models. So, yeah.
So we've got John who will take it frequently, me who will take
John will take it always, don't you, John?
Yeah, every game. I think this Chapter Master on the bike is honestly my MVP throughout 9th edition. He is the one staple that you find in every single army.
Cool. I'll take it some of the time, and Tony won't take it at all. Great.
Too cheap. Well, that was quick and easy then. So overall, we think the Warlord trait?
I think the Warlord trait's a thumbs down, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit
shit, really.
That was good.
Angel Artifice, we quite like that one.
Yeah. It's not the only choice you have in terms of relics.
Not at all. You've got Armor Indom, you've got
relic.
Other things.
Oh, and one other thing that I don't run in my list, so probably, but definitely worth mentioning, if you are ever using a Forlorn Fury Death Company, then Chapter Master with them is amazing, because you daisy chain. You Forlorn Fury the unit forward 12 inches, but you daisy chain one model back so it's within 6 of the Chapter Master, and that gives you the potential. So in turn 1, in your command phase, you give that Death Company full rerolls, then you jump them forward another 12 inches. So the front model is 24 inches forward. You can almost charge anything in the enemy's army at that point, I would assume, if you're 24 inches forward.
If you're going for a Mega Alpha Strike and you've brought 5 Thunderhammers in your 10-man Death Company or more, then that's certainly something to consider doing, because
it's absolutely that's
that's pretty devastating.
It's a 22. It's literally just, if you think about 66% chance to hit versus 88% chance to hit, it's just a 20.
It's less than that if you're using the Thunderhammers.
Yeah, I suppose
50% chance.
But yeah, it's just literally going to increase your chance to hit. Well, in the case of a Thunderhammers, it's actually a 25% increase, because if you're hitting on 4s and you get rerolls, it goes from 50% chance to hit to 75% chance to hit. So,
which is a big deal if you're using those big, expensive weapons.
Yeah, so I think Chapter Master is a thumbs up, maybe situationally, depending on your list.
I think it's a thumbs up. It's pretty specific army lists like mine.
The Marines in general is the access to various rerolls you can get. So leaning into that is a positive.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we move on then? Let's have a look. The Master of Sanctity. So this is our fancy chaplain. Well, how much does a fancy chaplain cost us, Mark?
Fancy chaplain is 25 points over and above the cost of your chaplain in general, whether it be a chaplain on foot or a chaplain with an awesome jump pack and wings, because that's such a beautiful model.
Yeah, and for those...
Or chaplain on bike, Primaris chaplain on bike.
I was going to say, those 25 points literally just let you cast a second litany on a 3-up, correct?
And give you access to choose the warlord trait relic. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. I think, I like litanies. I like them a lot. I think 3-up litany is kind of unreliable, but I mean, getting 2 litanies over 1, I guess, is it's pretty good, I think, for 25 points.
Choosing an extra litany, for me, is not worth it. If that was the sole benefit you got from this, I would never do it. Because you're right, litanies activating on 3-up is not reliable enough for me to form a battle plan around, especially since there's no way to re-roll it. So, in and of itself, I don't really care about the Master of Sanctity ability to know an extra litany. Stack it with a warlord trait, then it gets interesting.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I mean, Wise Orator I actually think is a very good warlord trait in that if you want to guarantee a litany cast, you can do it for 1 CP with the commanding oratory stratagem, and the second part of it is basically you're now casting 2 litany on 2 pluses rather than 3 pluses. And in my experience on the board, anytime you need a litany to go off on a 3+, it will not go off. And with 2 litanies on a 2+, I'd say 90% of the time both go off fine. So Wise Orator to me actually seems like a very high value warlord trait if you are going for a Master of Sanctity.
Plus, there is the combo that has been worked out that you can use with a chaplain arriving from Deep Strike. If they did that, they couldn't normally recite litanies because they'd be off the board during the command phase. But if they do land from Deep Strike, they can then use commanding oratory to do the +2 inches to your charge roll litany, and then you can Deep Strike and get a 7-inch charge.
Yeah, I think you can use that stratagem. Though if he's not the Wise Orator, just going to cost you an extra command point.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
I think this is one of those interesting ones, because when we did when we looked at the HQs before and we looked at Astarath, one of the criticisms we had for him was he was the Master of Sanctity, but you couldn't give him Wise Orator.
Yeah.
And I'm actually with Mark on this one, and I don't really see the point in taking Master of Sanctity if you're not going for Wise Orator. That's why you take it. I don't think getting an extra warlord trait is worth 25 points. Sorry, getting an extra litany is worth 25 points. I think you pay 25 points to gain access to Wise Orator.
Which is funny, because those tournament-winning lists that I reviewed on the channel, a bunch of people take Master of Sanctity, but then skip out on the Wise Orator and take Gift of Foresight. So I guess that comes back to Mark's point earlier, where Gift of Foresight just makes your character very survivable, and I guess failing some litanies they're kind of okay with if the character survives.
Yeah.
I'm
they consider
actually
the litanies
with them.
more of a bonus than something to base their whole battle plan around.
I'm actually with them on that. I do run chaplains. I don't really run captains, but I do run chaplain. But I tend to run the bike chaplain. And I never take Master of Sanctity. And the way I build my bike chaplain is I make him as survivable as possible. I'll give him Gift of Foresight. I'll give him Armor Indom. And then the only litany that I'm trying to get off is the one to give me extra damage. So even without that, he's still very, very damaging. So if my litany goes off and I can smack even harder, then wonderful. But if it doesn't go off and I can't smack harder, it's not really the end of the world. And I use him as my smash character because 115 points is a hell of a character.
Yeah, no, he is very good for 115 points. You're right. And again, you're taking Mantra of Strength. So I think that puts him on 7 attacks at strength 7. obviously.
Exactly, and even if it doesn't go off, he's still hitting bloody hard.
Yeah.
And he's still survivable as anything anyway, so you can still stick him in as a hell of a roadblock.
And this is still build specific. You can build your chaplain to do anything. You can build it to buff your
you can.
shooting, you build it to buff your melee, you can build him to be a beat stick in combat himself through the Hulk out one. I would consider taking a chaplain pretty frequently in Blood Angels. I've never considered taking it at all in Raven Guard for some reason. It just doesn't work with the priorities that I have with other characters in that army. So there you go.
Yeah, so, I mean, overall, I guess we like Wise Orator, but can see reasons to not take it.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I think it depends on if you see the litanies as a bonus or if you're trying to base your strategy around them. And I think if you're trying to base your strategy around your litanies, like your 7-inch charge that Mark mentioned, then Wise Orator is probably really important.
Or, and I will say this, because you still got a 2+, it still means you can fail it on a 1. You can't re-roll that. You just say, bollocks to it. If my strategy hinges on that 7-inch dropping it down, I'm going to keep 2 CP to do it without that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure it goes off.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally valid as well, yeah.
And having that option is very, very valuable.
What do we think of the relic?
I've had some people tell me that this relic is good, but I really don't see it. So each time...
Sorry, no, go on.
Go ahead and read it first, just so we're all clear.
Well, you've got the 2 effects from the Emperor's Judgment, which is a death mask, which is all well and cool and all. The first effect is whenever anyone attacks you, they can't re-roll the hit roll or re-roll or damage roll, which is...
It's nice, but...
It's all right.
It's not amazing.
It's not going to be in effect all the time. They're not always going to have re-rolls against you.
Yeah.
Which means that you'll only benefit from that some of the time, as opposed to all the time. The second ability, morale isn't really all that in the game.
No, morale's pointless.
Yeah, I was going to say, so there's... I agree with what you said, Mark, and I think we're seeing it in that, like, so that new Adeptus Custodes rules were just leaked, like, or just shared, maybe they weren't leaked on Warhammer Community. Yeah. They're going the same way that, like, Space Marine characters are going, in that, like, characters are no longer going to be able to reroll their own hits and wounds, from what I understand. So you're right, half the time, it's going to, like, a character-on-character fight here, you're going to get no benefit from that first part. And then chaplains already give their leadership to all Space Marine models within 6 anyway. So the same as this aura?
Well, no. This aura debuffs an enemy's leadership rather than buffing your own friends.
Oh, sorry. If an enemy was in... I thought it was... Okay.
It means they're more likely to run away because they're being scared by the golden relic-y death mask of the Emperor's Judgment inherent or something. I mean, so against some armies, it'll be useful. And against some armies, it'll be completely pointless, just like the top effect.
It's that top effect. Yeah, all that top effect is going to do in a character fight is it's going to mean they can't use a CP reroll.
Yeah. And the bottom effect, I think morale is really a poor... I think morale is in a really poor place this edition.
Yeah. They tried to make it more...
editions, but it's still not all
doesn't
that
work.
really.
They tried to make it more impactful when it's more impactful on Space Marines because we never used to fail it and now we technically can. But for everybody else, it's actually they've had a massive morale buff. You know, even Guardsmen, you're still only losing 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And they're only costing 6 points a model or whatever it is. You
in theory,
don't
it's
care.
dangerous, and in practice, you've got powers that let you ignore it, or rerolls that let you ignore it.
It's just really not that good. So, all right, let's give us our thumbs up. So, Master of Sanctity overall, where are we going?
Yeah, I'm going up.
Yeah. I think I'm somewhere in the middle on that one. Wise Orator?
Yeah,
I'm going up.
like it.
Yeah. Emperor's Judgment.
Boom, boom. This is fun. We should do thumbs up, thumbs down more often.
I don't know, it's going to get boring fairly quickly.
I feel like I'm in that Gladiator movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let him die. Okay, so what we got next? We've got a Master of the Forge.
Love this guy. Is this your painted Tech Marine? Please tell me it is.
Yes.
I was going to say, if it's not your Tech Marine, I'm going to be angry.
Now, that armour, the way you've done the red there on his legs is gorgeous. I love it. Very nice.
Oh, thank you.
It's just a shame he's got those silly little hazard stripes on his arm.
I've actually changed it since this picture and I've thickened them up. Because, yeah, you're right. I didn't realise how crap they looked till I took the picture.
Sorry, dude.
Okay, Master of the Forge. It costs you 20 points, and what it means is when you heal a model, rather than heal it for D3, which I guess is an average of a 2, you heal it for 3. So it basically, on average, lets you heal for 1 additional point for 20 points. How do we feel about that? Why don't we start with you, Tony? You're the big Dreadnought guy.
I'm going to buck the trend on this one, and I did mention earlier that I never take upgrades. Actually, that's a lie, because I almost always take this upgrade. Now, I'm a huge Tech Marine fan. I think they're really underrated. I take a lot of Dreadnoughts, yes. So I've got lots of things that they can heal, and being able to heal them a flat 3 is very, very useful, and I think it's worth these 20 points. When we get into things like the warlord traits and the relic, that's something a little bit different. The warden and the ancients warlord trait, I think, is useless. Like, I can't see what it's for. Not being funny, but if something's getting punched by a dreadnought at strength 14, putting it up to, say, strength 15 isn't really going to make any difference here.
The strength buff, I agree. The attacks buff is
the attacks
worthwhile.
buff is
Because
nice,
Dreads have got, like, what, 4 attacks on the whole?
They don't have a huge number, no. But you get 1 extra 1 for charging, and
Dreadnoughts have 4 attacks. There is something to be said. So it's 4 attacks, and a Blood Angels, we potentially get 2 more.
Yeah.
The Warden of the Ancient would be useful for another chapter, because if it's strength 14, going up to 15, does that not now let it wound toughness 7 on 2s, or it already wounds because it's
it
double?
already wounds toughness 7 on 2s. If it went up to strength 16, that would be useful, because it would mean you could wound toughness 8 things on 2s. We already wound toughness 8 things on 2s.
Moving from what is always an even number up to an odd number makes no difference whatsoever, unless you're talking about toughness.
So it just adds no value at all.
So the strength part is useless, so it's plus 1 attack for Dreadnoughts within 6.
Complete shit. No reason.
An extra attack is nice, but I generally would rather take something like Soul Warden if I'm sticking a Warlord trait on my Tech Marine to protect all my Dreadnoughts from mortal wounds.
I feel it's better things you can put on that.
I just think it's better. It's exactly that. I just think there's better things that you
There's
can
a case to be made if you
put on him.
So one of the things I've been considering recently is a core of 2 or 3 Dreadnoughts walking into the mid-board supported by a Master of the Forge, at which point adding an extra attack to each of them could be worth it.
More worth it than any other options we've got.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
And that's the thing, you know. And he's not very fast either. Remember, he can only move 6 inches. Because I did think you could, if you were feeling nutty, stick him with a load of melee dreadnoughts and think, wow, look at all my Death Company dreadnoughts, all these attacks. But as they waddle across the board at 6 inches a turn, they're going to take a very long time before they're actually going to get any benefit out of that.
He can run and still shoot his big heavy bolter.
He can run and still shoot. Don't get me, he's brilliant. Love the model. I just think the Warlord trait is...
It's the Primaris one, of course, but yeah.
Two situations. Cool model. The relic.
If I was taking a Tech Marine, I would always upgrade it to Master of the Forge.
Yeah, I do.
That guaranteed extra healing is a no-brainer.
I mean, I was going to say, so obviously you take Soul Warden, so if you weren't a Blood Angels player and you just limit to what's in the Space Marine book, there's still ones that you could take, like, for example, Storm of Fire means that, core units within 6, every time they make a ranged attack, that they roll a 6, improve the AP by 1. That would be probably more useful than the Word in the Ancients. And also the other big one from the Space Marine book would be Rites of War. If you get 3 dreadnoughts in the middle of the map, would you like them to be obset? Well, I bet your opponent wouldn't. So, yeah, I think that this Warden of the Ancients is terrible.
This is going to blow your mind, and I have tried this out before. Stick an Imperium Sword on him.
Oh yeah, because he gets 8 attacks anyway.
He gets 8 attacks anyway.
Yeah, so why not give him 9?
People get surprised when the Tech Marine comes and carves their head off. The relic's pretty good, but I just never take it.
What is the relic? Tell us, because I never take it either.
The relic is it's a relic power axe. It's nice because it's flat damage 3, strength +3. So you're hitting a strength 7, AP -2, damage 3. You can't use all of your attacks. I think it works. I think 6 of your attacks you can use with this relic.
What is it over a normal power axe?
An extra point of damage.
Yes.
I think it's going to be an extra point of damage.
2 points,
2 points of damage, actually.
An extra 2 points of damage and an extra point of strength.
Yeah. So an extra 2 points of damage, an extra point of strength. It's not
good
shit.
It's not shit at all. It's a good relic.
It's actually really good. I guess the one problem is his WS is 3, right?
Yeah, but
his BS is 2, but his WS is 3.
I just don't take it on him because I've normally put a relic on somebody else.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure it's worth the CP for this extra hitting power. Whilst I say he's a good combat character, he's not
he's
primarily
not a
designed as a combat character.
Sorry, his power axe is actually normally 2 damage, so it's just 1 more damage.
It's 1 more damage, 1 more strength.
Yeah. And mortal wounds against vehicles.
And mortal wounds against vehicles, but he's probably not going to get to charge any vehicles anyway.
It's a little bit less interesting. Like you say, I wouldn't take it. I'd take other relics for other purposes.
It's good.
Whenever
I just don't tend to put a relic on my on him. The only thing I have put on him for Blood Angels fans is Special Issue War Gear and Mastercrafted his bolter.
Yeah, that's a potential. The thing that I like to put on him sometimes for Blood Angels fans as well was Quake Bolts.
There you go.
That can work really well as well.
Because he's got that nice
shooting at ballistic skill 2 up, which is as close to a guaranteed hit as you get. And he's got a decent range gun that can fire it.
And can fire when he advances.
And
I just
that was as well. The advance is big as well.
I quite like the damage 3 heavy bolter on his head.
Aside from an Illuminator, he's one of the best choices for giving Quake Bolts to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if you guys got anything else to add to this.
No, I think that the Tech Marine is swingy in combat. I've seen him hit with all 8 attacks and do some great damage. Meanwhile, I've seen him have 8 attacks and do nothing. It is his weapon skill and then the random strength between his attacks, because 1 attack is on strength 8, a few are on like strength 6, and a few are on strength 4. Yeah, it's all over the place.
All from the little tentacles and
he gets the 2 bonus attacks from his mechadendrites. He can make 1 with the servo arm.
Yep. So
the rest with his power axe.
He doesn't really feel like a melee combat character. He's not bad in melee combat, but he isn't designed to be in melee combat. You're probably better off hanging around your dreadnoughts, healing them, shooting with the 3 damage potential bolter, like you said, and or Quake Bolts or whatever.
Or even if you don't give him anything, he's still a decent gun.
Yeah.
He's got his little grab pistol as well, which everyone forgets.
Yeah, and it's nice you can actually shoot the grav pistol in the same turn you shot the heavy bolter, because he holds the grav pistol and heavy bolter's mounted on his shoulder. That is a special rule for the Primaris Tech Marine, and I think that's why he's a lot better than the Firstborn Tech Marine
for Forge Bolter rule.
For like 5 more points, I think it is, or maybe it's 10 more points, but there's very little in it.
Absolute steal. But we're not talking about whether because Tech Marines, I think we decided before, we put them in A, and I wanted to put them in S, because I think they're brilliant. But they're only brilliant if you bring a load of stuff from to heal up.
Yeah, so Warlord trait...
I'm generally a no, to be honest.
Yeah, and Relic?
No. Again, but leaning towards the no.
Yeah.
I think he's got better choices.
Master of the Forge, we love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're going to run a Tech Marine, Firstborn or Primaris, take
the
Master of the Forge.
You pick a Tech Marine is to support and heal your vehicles, and this does it better, so quids in.
Perfect.
All
right.
So, Chief Librarian then.
Oh, this is John's baby. This is 25 points more than normal.
Yeah, I was going to say, basically, the Master of the Forge, the Chapter Master, and the Chief Librarian are my 3 characters in my list. I build the list with 3 characters because I don't like giving away more points for Assassinate. So, Chief Librarian gives him an additional power, and also gives him an additional deny, right? So he casts 2 and he denies 2.
Yep.
And I mean...
And knows...
He doesn't know any more powers, I think. He knows 1 more power, he just doesn't cast anymore.
He can't cast anymore, yeah.
So paying 25 points for 1 additional deny, to me, actually seems kind of shitty.
Yeah,
that's not why you take Chief Librarian, in my opinion.
This is a little bit like the Chaplain scenario, where you don't take the upgrade for its base ability. You're really taking it for its Warlord trait. Although it's not bad.
Nice. It's more useful on this than it is on the Chaplain, arguably. But you take it to unlock the Warlord trait. Yeah.
And the Warlord trait, Psychic Mastery, +1 to all your psychic tests, is arguably, I'd say it's like super high value. Like, you have to take it if you want to run this character effectively.
It all comes down to what I said previously about wanting to minimize the randomness of your dice rolls. And that does this for psychic tests, which is one of the most random things you're going to get in the game in terms of casts.
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of times where I would have failed psychic powers without that +1 in competitive games actually is huge.
And
it
you got to bear in
takes.
mind. Oops, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, you'd be surprised at how many times in a competitive game on a psychic test you roll a 5.
Plus, it doesn't just increase your ability to cast the power, it also decreases commensurately your opponent's ability to deny it by boosting your cast roll by 1, which is also really, really useful.
Yeah.
If you're relying on a Psyker, then this just makes it that little bit more reliable, which is really, really hard to get.
I think Mark hit it on the head there. If you're relying on your Psyker, you probably need Psychic Mastery. In fact, I'll go further than that, and I'll say if you're relying on your Psyker, you need Psychic Mastery. And then that's where it becomes a little bit more of a choice, because maybe your strategy is not reliant on your Psyker, and you're bringing a Psyker because it's handy to have a deny, and you maybe want to use him something else. Maybe it's more of a chaplain situation where if he brings the buffs or brings whatever he's bringing, it's a bonus rather than something you're relying on. And then you're going to think, well, is that bonus worth 25 points and your warlord trait? And maybe the answer is no. So I think Psychic Mastery is very, very important if you're going to rely on it. I don't think you have to, but it's a bit more of a choice in that one.
Depends on your build.
Yeah.
And what powers you want to give them and what role you want them to take.
What about the relic? I'm leaning towards fucking useless.
Oh, wouldn't give it the time of day.
Yeah, Psychic Hood just gives you +1 to your deny, is that correct?
No, yeah, Psychic Hood does, yeah.
Yeah, so it increases the range of your +1 to deny from 12 inches to 24 inches. Doesn't change the range of your deny, it changes the range of your +1 to deny. How niche is that, really?
Well, it is more niche, I guess, than the +1 to cast.
Yeah.
I find...
Not every army is going to be casting against you. Those that do, sometimes you'll be within range, sometimes you won't be within range, sometimes they'll be casting high, sometimes they'll be casting low. There's going to be that really, really odd occasion where an extra +1 to deny will make all the difference, which will be a fraction of some of your games. So, yeah.
I was going to say...
it's general purpose enough to be bringing.
Yeah, and it's... The thing with denies is, like, you have to... Yeah, the opponent rolls 11. You know, you're fucked. You're just completely fucked. You're never going to deny... I imagine... So, I mean... That's... I have 2 denies in my list. Obviously, with the Chief Librarian, I'd say that, like, on average, you probably deny, like, 1 out of every 3 or something. So, having a +1 to deny is probably not going to change that. You're still going to deny 1 out of every 3. Maybe it's on a critical one, but yeah, it's just way too random. It would have been better if it was just like +2 within the normal 12-inch range or something, you know, like +1 on the... It's so edge case.
So should we vote on this one and give it our thumbs up and down?
Just very briefly, if you know you're going to be facing an enemy like Eldar or Tyranids or Thousand Suns or Grey Knights, you might know that you're going to want to take Neural Shroud. So that's an edge case.
Or you might want to go the other way and ditch your Librarian and go for Abhor the Witch.
Yeah.
Because if they've got so much Psychic, especially things like Thousand Suns, which have got that horrible secondary that says if your opponent has the ability to do mortal wounds and you do more mortal wounds, you get victory points. And if you're bringing 10 sorcerers, which is pretty standard, you're going to do more than their 1 librarian. And by bringing your librarian against that Thousand Suns army, you've just said, take that secondary and max it out. Easy. So in sometimes with armies like that, you're better off just not bringing one. Take the hit, kill the sorcerers or something.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So I guess Psychic Mastery, thumbs up. Neural Shroud, mostly thumbs down, right?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I think Psychic Mastery definitely thumbs up. Neural Shroud, no, fuck off. Chief Librarian, probably most of the time you're going to want it. I think that's fair.
Yeah, agree with that.
Should we move on then? We're getting through these tonight. That's not like us at all. When are we going to bog down and start talking bollocks about something unrelated?
Soon, don't worry.
Okay, so we have our Chief Apothecary. Now, this is an interesting one. How much does a Chief Apothecary set us back, Mark?
When the book initially released, It was a massive plus 15 points over and above the price of an apothecary.
It was a fucking
Because it
steal.
was,
That's what it was.
because it is quite so overpowered that got buffed relatively quickly to where it currently is, which is plus 35 points over and above the price of your apothecary, or for Blood Angels, over and above the price of your Sanguinary Priest.
Which is already
Or
100.
apothecary. You can take an apothecary as
can.
Blood Angels.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, and what does that 35 points let you do then? It basically just lets you heal 2 units as opposed to 1.
Yep, for D3 a time,
Yep,
which
that's
is,
correct.
let's face it, not that great in and of itself.
It's not
The
awful.
amount of times you'll be in a position to heal 2 different units within close proximity of you, both of which have infantry or bike models, with the exception of the ATV.
Well, no, the ATV's
down
okay with
wounds.
this.
Oh, no, you're right. It can be healed. Sorry, that's the one thing. It can be healed. My mistake. Bikers or infantry missing wounds but still not dead, to be able to heal them at D3, that's a bit of an edge case. If that was just it, then you'd never take it. It's not that great.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless it's bikes or like Centurions,
Yeah.
90% of the time you're just healing a 1 wound Marine.
Yeah.
Or you're healing a 2 wound Marine for 1 wound, sorry. For 35 points. That's
But it's
pretty
not
costly.
just that, is it?
Well, no, let's get on to Selfless Healer
It also
Warlord trait
unlocks the
then.
ability for you to buy the relic, which is
Because pistol relics are top tier.
it's a bit
Pistol
shit,
meta.
really.
So replace your Resolver bolt pistol with the following profile: 1 shot, strength 5, -3, 2 damage. On against infantry, an unmodified wound roll of 2+. This has a damage characteristic of 4.
It's actually
Yes.
not. As pistol relics go,
Yeah.
it's not too bad.
If it was on something else, that would potentially be a fairly cool pistol.
It's a cool pistol anyway.
Yeah.
It's just, why the fucking hell would you ever take that?
Pretty much.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone run a Sanguinary Priest with this pistol, you know that?
No, you never would do. There's just so many other better relics with force multiplication effects or other effects.
Or
you
even
can
just
use in that
combat, and just go Teeth of Terror and
place. Yeah.
Yeah, the Teeth of Terror gives you 8 attacks on a
The strength
on
of Blood
a
Angels is
WS2.
attacks and melee attacks, not shooting a pistol at
you
them.
know, maybe for other chapters you wouldn't do that ever. And even there's an argument that we shouldn't do it either. And we should concentrate on not getting him killed by
Yeah.
shoving him in combat with things.
Likewise, I still wouldn't take it on a Raven Guard. They've got other relics I'd be more interested in taking.
I'd
but-
never take a critical.
Because I kind of glossed us over the real Gouda cheese here, which is the Warlord trait of crazy good.
Is it
This is
crazy
what you
good?
want.
Because I don't run it.
No, I don't run it either.
It's crazy good.
It was crazy good for 15 points.
Alright, tell us why it's crazy good. Selfless Healer.
Okay, so instead of healing 2 units for D3, you're healing 2 units for 3 a time, which is great. It becomes a lot more interesting in that regard because then you can use it to top up yourself as a character. It'll be a little bit more useful. You could heal a model in a bike or an ATV or a Centurion for 3 points, which is very nice and tasty. I've very rarely healed more than 1 unit, but guaranteeing healing 3 is worth the price of admission, I believe. The other part is where it gets silly because it lets you bring a model back to life for 0 CP once a turn, just back to life. And the restriction to that is it has to be infantry or a bike, but not an ATV, because that's a lot of points.
So you can be bringing back sort of 60-point attack bikes or 50-odd point assault Centurions, or even more expensive Devastator Centurions at 70 or 80 points or whatever they stupidly are.
I think some of them are 100+ points, Centurion Devastators.
Wouldn't shock me. And then if this is on a unit like a Blood Angel Sanguinary Priest, which can also take a jump pack, you've got a lot of mobility in where you want to position your apothecary to be able to resurrect a dead model, which makes it very tasty indeed.
Yeah.
Combined with the Sanguinary Priest's ability to put things into the Assault Doctrine as well.
But
this was useful for more than just Blood Angels. This
absolutely.
This was like the single HQ of auto take. When the book
it's
first
elites
came
for
out.
everybody else.
Yeah, that's true.
If you've got a more shooty Space Marine army and you bring your standard apothecary, you stick Selfless Healer and you stick him basically in a unit of 5 Devastator Centurions, and you've just given them all a 6-up, feel no pain. You're going to bring back 1 each turn. You're going to heal 1 for 3 each turn. That's a very powerful combo.
In an addition where being alive through your opponent's turn to still be sat on and holding the objective, any defensive buff that you can get that allows you to do so is great. And this does that. It's great.
It's very, very powerful.
Is there
I never run it, but it's very powerful.
Do you think it's still good at 35 points? For
Yes,
Blood
it can be.
For Blood Angels, I guess. I mean, I guess here's the problem, I suppose, a little bit with these things, in that, like, so some of these are, because of the 20 different Marine chapters, some of these things are going to feel overcosted for us, because I think at 35 points for Blood Angels, it feels kind of overcosted. But like you said, if it was an Ultramarines detachment with all those heavy weapons, and they're bringing back 100-point Centurions with 2 las cannons on them or something, then 35 points seems totally reasonable, right?
So Blood Angels are the only chapter who will put this on a model that can get a jump pack as well. And when you've got not just an apothecary, but a Sanguinary Priest who's more expensive than apothecary, plus a jump pack for some extra points, plus
150
apothecary model for extra points, that starts to total up a lot, which makes people go, it's a bit much. And I appreciate Dark Angels can do the same, or near the same, with Raven Wing, but they're upgrading apothecaries rather than HQs. So they're paying the extra for the bike, but they're not paying the extra for the base benefits of the character. So I can see why people blanch at it now, which is good. It shouldn't be an auto take. It should be a hard decision. But I still believe if your strategy places value upon infantry staying alive, or bikes staying alive for as long as they can, then you take one of these.
I think if you're bringing an apothecary, you bring it with Selfless Healer. I can't see many cases that I bring an apothecary with any of the chapters and not bring Selfless Healer, unless I was trying to do it absolutely bargain basement as much as I could, just to give a 6-up feel no pain to something big. And that's pretty edge case. I think that if you're going to bring an apothecary, you're going to bring Selfless Healer. You're not going to bring Acquittal. And whether or not you bring an apothecary is going to depend on, or a Sanguinary Priest, is going to depend on the chapter you're playing and the style that you're playing. You know, we've talked about this before. I don't run one because I tend to run very heavy on the Dreadnoughts, very light on the things that the Sanguinary Priest can actually heal. So I don't think it's worth it for my list. But if you're going very heavy on the very expensive infantry units and you need him to fly along, and there is certainly an argument for making him your warlord, sticking him with a jump pack, sticking him with a big old mob of Sanguinary Guard, and then having this sort of death unit that you keep bringing them back every turn, flying around the board, killing everything. And that's certainly a valid strategy, and it works quite well for a lot of people. Yeah. So I think the arguments for or against apothecaries, trying to take that away, I think the upgrade on its own is fairly mediocre. I think the warlord trait is probably still very good, even at 35 points. And a relic is shit.
Throwaway, yeah.
Okay, one final question then before we move on. I think I agree with everything you said there, in that, like, if you are going to take a Chief Apothecary, you are going to be Selfless Healer. If you're not, then you're probably not getting the most out of it. Does this ask the question that named apothecaries for the chapters, i.e. Corbolo or any other named...
Corbulo. You both call him Corbolo, and I've not called you out on it, either of you, for months, and it's been bugging the fuck out of me.
Is it Corbulu or something?
Corbulo. Corbulo. Corbulo.
Okay, I mean, 13-year-old me, when read the Codex, I guess, couldn't do grammar. So
35-year-old me is now going to do it even more because I know it annoys you.
Cheers.
Does this make the case for those guys need to have their warlord traits rethought if you ever want to see them in any sort of competitive
if
play?
You're paying in the inbuilt in that model for the Chief Apothecary and you can't take Selfless Healer, then you are overpaying for that character. And I think that is absolutely flat. I can't think of any, although to be honest, I can't think of any other special characters, or whatever they're called now, in other chapters that are apothecaries.
Generally, I agree. There would be an edge case where you could take Corbulo and you'd be running
5 Assault Centurions in a Land Raider.
for the aura of everything around me is in the assault doctrine. There's value in that, but it's a very, very this building specifically for that, and it's not really that competitive because he has got a jump pack. You'd have to transport loads of stuff up with him.
You have to put him in a Land Raider Crusader with 5 assault Centurions.
But I mean,
you'd just be buffing one unit, so you don't get much use out of his aura. You'd normally be buffing multiple units to get the most out of Kill Belows, which is why you don't see people running.
Sure, but I mean, I guess
his aura can be a nerf.
I mean more for his warlord trait, right? Like, regardless of his aura, which I guess is, like if his warlord trait isn't selfless healer, then
you're paying for something that's
his warlord trait is best in the game, arguably.
On the worst model,
it's just not on the best character for it. Yeah,
it just doesn't work on the character. Yeah, so yeah, maybe that's a discussion for a future video. For a future video where we look down like named characters from different chapters and decide why they have dumb warlord traits. It could be a fun video.
If GW ever get to the point where they listen to this and overlook at the fact that we're putting Wikipedia stuff on the screen for everybody to see, should probably pay attention to the fact that having chapter command units of a named nature like Corbulo and Astaroth and Dante and whatnot should have the option to take these warlord traits.
Yeah, because otherwise they're just inferior. Yeah, inferior is.
Anyway,
we're not being totally irresponsible, by the way, putting Wikipedia. We've not put the points cost up there, and we have all bought the book.
That's very true. Yeah, you're very true.
But yeah, so I think that's probably where we are. So let's grade him on our thumbs up and down scale then. So on its own, Chief Apothecary, probably not. Selfless Healer,
absolutely.
I think so.
Reason to buy.
And Acquittal,
it's too expensive.
I think it's a bit expensive as well.
Fair enough.
It's good.
Acquittal, I wouldn't pay attention to.
No, Acquittal's shit. I was being facetious. Okay, let's move on then.
But I think the only reason that I feel it's too expensive is because Blood Angels require you really to throw a jump pack on that character as well.
And then you've got 155 point Apothecary.
Yeah, who can get one shot.
To me, that's not too much. To me, that's a question. But yeah. Fair enough.
Okay, so I don't know why we're bothering to talk about the next one. Chapter Ancients are fucking useless.
They're useless to Blood Angels. We covered this. They have value to other chapters, and one of the reasons they have value to other chapters, in my opinion, is right here.
Go on then. You tell us why they're not totally fucking useless.
Because it is a second source of granting obsec to stuff within an aura, aside from Rites of War.
Sure. So, how many points does a chapter ancient cost? Because, like we said, we can't use them as Blood Angels.
So, chapter ancient would be 20 points over and above the price of your regular ancient, be it Blade Guard ancient or normal ancient or whatever other flavor Terminator ancient you want to give this on. And the base ability that it gives them is select a chapter core unit within 6 inches, and they get +1 to their hit roll for melee attacks, which is
okay. That's not bad.
Not shit.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's the exact same thing that the Blade Guard Ancient standard gives as well, isn't it? It just gives.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the Ancient that doesn't have a blade and can't really guard anything.
Yes,
and can only buff the Blade Guard, so it's basically just a better version of the Blade Guard Ancient, right?
It's obviously only useful for a unit you expect to be in melee, so you're not going to have this Ancient standing back buffing a shooting line, which is fair enough, because if you have a model carrying the banner of the chapter, then you kind of want them holding it forwards and getting stuck in and all this kind of jazz, which is fine from a flavor point of view. The relic on... It's all right. Part of the whole point of Ancients is that when a model dies, you've got a 50-50 chance of either making an attack, either a shooting attack or a melee attack.
Take a relic, which means you get a 50-50 chance of getting 2 attacks.
2 attacks, yeah. Which is...
shit.
It's a flat improvement over what it did normally. It's
100% improvement on what it normally does.
Just don't really rate what it did normally, really.
You know, 100% on something that's fucking useless is still fucking useless.
But coming back to what I mentioned at the start of this, that warlord trait granting OBSEC is really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I think the warlord trait is very powerful.
Can I put a counter to that? Because I think it's fine. Yeah, giving OBSEC can be very useful. But we can already give OBSEC through a warlord trait, and this is a way of giving something else OBSEC through a warlord trait and a 20-point tax. And is it really worth 20 points to have the potential to give something else OBSEC that I couldn't already give OBSEC with my first warlord trait?
Or in 2 different places on the battlefield.
Or in 2 different places on the battlefield. But you know what else does that? Troops. And not being funny,
the problem with Space
chapter
Marine
ancient
troops
will cost the same as a unit of troops.
Problem with Space Marine troops is they're a bit shit, really.
Yeah.
Sure, but okay, let me play devil's advocate. If you're going to spend 100 points, because a Primaris Ancient is going to be 80 points, 20 to upgrade them, and another CP to take OBSEC, would you not just be like 100 points? That's a whole squad of troops. What do you?
This is where I'm at with him. I think
if this guy needs to follow us, if this guy wants to follow a squad of elites, let's say Blade Guard veterans around the board,
yep,
to give them +1 to hit, I guess, which is not bad.
It's good.
Is that better than having a squad of troops just follow the same squad of Blade Guard around the board?
Or, alternatively, having any other character that we can give Rights of War to, follow him around and maybe give them a different buff. I feel it's unlikely that I'm going to have 2 sets of elites at 2 different sides of the board that I'm going to need to give OBSEC to.
Need, maybe not. Want. Yeah, I can see that.
And I think this is a real play style thing. And I think some people really do lean very heavily onto this kind of like, it is maximum amount of OBSEC possible, maximum amount of scoring units possible, and really concentrating on that to the expense of just killing all the fucking enemy. And I think for some people and for some builds, that can be very, very powerful.
As a note, I would never consider taking a Primaris Ancient over a regular Ancient, because the benefits you get for doing so wouldn't really make much of a difference to the role you want the Ancient to play for an extra 5 or 10 points. I'd just save the points and buy a Firstborn Ancient.
Yeah. What do you think of the Terminator Ancient with a Thunderhammer?
I'd rather just take another Terminator squad with some Thunderhammer. I know he costs a lot less than a whole squad, but a whole squad's a lot better than him as well.
If I was considering taking this for the reasons I've outlined, I'd want to keep him as cheap as possible to buff the units around him who would then do the fighting, rather than having being constant.
The one thing that I would bring a Terminator Ancient for would be if I had some sort of strategy that meant I could keep him in Deep Strike, and then I could say, right, that's the unit I need to give OBSEC to. You know, I get them all out.
Terminators can teleport.
And then, yeah, exactly. And I just drop him down to give that unit, and he doesn't have to follow him around. He just pops in where I need it. And I could see there is some benefit to do that. I'd never do it, but I could see there is some benefit to doing that.
Yeah. Okay, so we kind of like the OBSEC, but we think you can do it better elsewhere. Does anyone like the relic?
No.
I've got no interest in the relic at all.
Yeah. I hate 50-50. 50-50 on death I always find is terrible, unreliable.
The other problem with the Ancients that we've covered in the tier videos, but we haven't mentioned here for the record, is the fact that, as John mentioned earlier, if you're taking multiple characters, that renders you vulnerable to assassinate as a secondary from your opponents. So you've got to prioritize how many characters you want and which of them are more important. And the Ancient tends to fall at the bottom of that pile.
Yeah. Okay.
Should we grade him then?
Yeah, I mean the ability to get +1 to hit on a model within 6.
It's good. Yeah.
I guess if you think about spending Quake Bolts for 1 CP, this is like do it for 20 points. So
if I'm using him to be in close proximity to a unit to give them OBSEC, then giving them +1 to hit in melee is also not shit. It's useful.
It's fine if you're gonna. Yeah, it's no reason not to. It's not bad.
I wouldn't buy it for it, but it's a nice benefit once I've got it.
Yeah, and the warlord trait is decent.
Warlord trait, I still think down. To be honest, I don't think I'd ever take it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think I'm with Mark on this. If you need another way to get OBSEC, if you don't want to take it on your other characters and you need another way to get it, then I guess this is one way to get it.
I've considered having, say, a squad of Blade Guard in the middle, supported by an Apothecary with Selfless Healer, supported by an Ancient with Steadfast Example. They're OBSEC, they're resilient, they're here. And on the other hand, I've got someone with a jump pack or bike flying around, zipping around, granting OBSEC to things more forward and charging and assaulting. I can see value in that, especially if I'm taking minimal troops or no troops. That's basically where I'm at with it.
Yeah, okay. And the relic, we hate.
Yeah, not interested. Seeing a theme here, relic is generally shit.
Yeah,
for these.
I don't think we liked Angel's Artifice, but I think other than that, we've not really been.
Yeah, that's it.
What's next?
Next, we have the Chapter Champion.
Ooh.
Yeah. Have you guys got that forged model there?
I have, and I took the sword off and gave him a Thunderhammer back when Jump Pack Smash Captains were all the rage.
Okay.
And I really regret it now, and I want to get another one with the sword because I love the whole cloak, sword charging, Aragorn, Return of the King last vibe it has to it. It just it does it for me. It's great.
Cool.
I'll find another one of those.
So our Chapter Champion is a very cheap model, actually. He comes in at 55 points, and it costs 15 points to make him the Chapter Champion. Sorry.
Yep.
What does he get for that, then? I mean, he gets a lot for 15 points compared to some of these other ones, right?
Those three abilities are very tasty.
So, each time a melee roll is made against him, subtract 1 from the hit roll. Each time a melee roll is made against an enemy character, you can reroll the wound roll. Not many ways to get like flat reroll wounds like that, you know, in general for Blood Angels. And this also makes him attack characteristics of 5 and leadership of 9. I mean, leadership's irrelevant, though.
Yeah. If he had one of those abilities, it'd be a bit meh. Having all three of them, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
For, as you said,
I think
55 plus 15, 60, 70 points?
I don't think I'd run a Chapter Champion without this.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, you wouldn't, because this is a Chapter Champion, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, I wouldn't run a Company Champion. I'd run a Chapter Champion.
Yeah, 5 attacks. That gives him 7 on the charge, potentially, for Blood Angel. Against... He's kind of a character killer. Yeah. He's got a good WS of 2 anyway. So, I mean, I like everything about the Chapter Champion. The only thing I don't like is that there's no jump pack on him. But, I mean, if you can get over the fact he just moves 6, then I think he's a really interesting...
You can't give him a bike. That is literally the only downside to any kind of company or Chapter Champion.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's very well costed. It's really hard. I can't see any real flaw apart from this real lack of mobility. So if you're playing a slower chapter where that's not a problem, I'd absolutely recommend this.
And I got round his lack of mobility in a couple of games, actually. I used him, and I just took his warlord trait, because his warlord trait gives characters and core models within 6 the ability to reroll charges. So what you can do is strategic reserve this guy. So strategic reserve him, bring him on 9 inches away from the enemy, bring him on with something else with him, like a squad of company veterans or something, and have them both do a reroll charge.
Yeah. And if they're Blood Angels, they're charging at minimum 8 inches with reroll, which is not reliable, but it's good.
I think it's a very good warlord trait. I think it's a very good ability upgrade. And then we're going to move on to the weapon. And actually, I think it's a pretty good weapon as well. If you're looking for a damage upgrade for him, I think that's not bad at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of other special swords. We covered them in the other video, you know, like the Emperor's Sword and the Archangel Shard, and none of them are flat 3 damage.
No.
So this is better than...
So the company champion as normal, the sword that they come with is a mastercrafted power sword. So it's 2 damage, AP -3 is unchanged, but it's strength +1. So it's +2 strength over normal and 1 extra damage over normal, which is pretty cool. Especially given with Blood Angels, you're at +1 to wound on the charge on top of that. So he'd be strength 7 with +1 to wound, which is fairly tasty.
Yeah, and one thing that maybe is interesting is if you did just want to strategic reserve him, you don't want to bring anyone with him, what about Imperium Sword? So that he gets +1 more strength, so he'd be on strength 8, and +1 more attack, so he would essentially get 8 attacks on turn 3, and Imperium Sword also lets him reroll his charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if
And
you're not using him as a buffing character, that's an excellent.
I shall invoke the hated things that we have yet to invoke this video. This is a brilliant character to put with a Flesh Tearers list. Because
especially you're dropping them all
in a drop pod with Seth and other things that are coming in, or in a Terrax or Termite Mole or whatever they're called these days. If you want to put a chaplain in with them as well to give them +2 to charge rather than +1 when they're coming out.
You could stick him, Seth, 2 company veterans, a little 5-man death company, and a chaplain in a drop pod. Drop it, pay for your Wise Orator to get you +2 to charge, and have this absolute death pod fall out of the sky and delete things.
Yeah. Not everything would make their charge. You'd still be on an 85% chance of this charge succeeding with a 7-inch charge with a reroll. But you're charging with a minimum of 3, maybe 4 different units.
And all of them hit hard.
Yeah, some of them are going to make it.
Yeah, and so, I mean, there's a lot to like with this champion,
I like this
right?
guy.
And if you did want to make like a quote-unquote smash character, I guess this is the cheapest way you can get a weapon skill 2 character with strength 8, a rerollable charge, and a flat 3 damage, right?
Yeah. There is one downside with a company/chapter champion that I can think of easily, and that is the downside I mentioned a moment ago with the Ancient. That is the assassinate problem. If you're taking multiple characters, is this one the best character for your army?
Potentially. I think that's going to depend on your army, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't take up an HQ slot, does he?
No, he's an elite.
So if you're running a battalion, you've only got 3 characters. This only brings up to 4, and 4's still okay for assassinate. We're starting to edge a little.
4's on the edge. Yeah. 4's on the edge of safety.
And if you want a smash character, so he's sacrificial, you don't care if he dies, then I think this is a very good, very strong choice, especially with a slower army like Flesh Tearers or like one of the more shooty armies, and you want some sort of really horrific counterpunch unit to sit amongst your lines. Maybe surround him with something like...
You've got to have an answer for his mobility. That's the only thing. If you can work,
you can stick him with a load of Gravis Marines or something like that. Maybe aggressors. Imagine him in a unit of with a load of aggressors in an Ultramarines list, just sitting there blasting away till things get close, and then him giving them that reroll charge for a real counter.
Yeah, for 70 points, you could afford to do that. He's not the massive point sink that the Apothecary would be. He's half the price. So
yeah, and it's worth just noting that although this picture here is the Forge World one, he does actually come with a combat shield. So he does have a 5-up in one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which you would have to model the combat shield onto him if you wanted to do that, which is fine.
I was trying to remember if he actually had an in-bun. So yeah. Alright, so paying 15 points to make him stronger, we all like.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're taking him. Yeah.
His Warlord trait to reroll.
Yes, pretty good.
Great.
That's what you need.
And his Blade of Triumph.
It's good. I wouldn't say it's a must pick, but it's definitely quality.
If you want to improve his killing ability with a relic, this is a good choice.
Do a lot worse than this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few relic shields and that people might want to bring that do replace that combat shield and can be quite powerful. And if you want, but I don't really see him as going for survivability.
No, he's much more of a glass cannon.
I think he's much more of a smash character than anything else.
Having said that, if you do have the option of taking a relic sword,
you do.
The Burning Blade is flat better than this.
Is it? Why?
Strength +3, AP -5, damage. Oh no, it's not better. Sorry, it's damage 2 rather than damage 3.
Yeah, I was going to say the other two swords are
not damage 3, I don't think.
No, they're damage 2. The Archangel Shard, the Blind Angel specific one, is damage 2, but it's like 3 damage against Chaos and 4 damage against Chaos Demons. But if you're talking take all corners, then Blade of Triumph is strong.
Would you go AP -3 and damage 3, or would you prefer AP -5 damage 2?
AP -3 damage 3, definitely.
Because the AP -5 will be wasted against a lot of opponents.
Yeah, and remember, he's so slow for us. For Blood Angels, turn 3 is probably about time he's going to get into combat anyway.
Yeah,
he's going to be an AP -4.
Yep, and there's so many. If you want to run him into Death Guard or Dreadnoughts or anything like that. Damage 3 is just so strong.
It doesn't even matter for Blood Angels. For all Space Marines, it's going to be about turn 3 before he gets into combat, and you're all going to get -1 AP.
Yeah,
that's true. True, yeah.
Right, ignore that. Sorry, I'm talking out my arse.
So, yeah,
I think,
sorry. Overall, I think we give him a bit of a thumbs up.
Yeah, definitely a good one.
That is a good one.
And that's it. That's all of them.
All right.
Can you believe it? We got through them all in, what, an hour?
An hour. Yeah.
We've done quite well for this. So,
I hope that's been helpful to some of you.
Hopefully someone's got something out of it, but you saw our disclaimer, and if you do, it's entirely your own fault.
Choosing to listen to us idiots.
For choosing to listen to us. So, Pile of Glory.
Woohoo!
We, a bit of a disclaimer on this episode. We're shooting this really close after the last episode we shot, so it's still just after Christmas. And I don't think anybody's done an awful lot of stuff, but I think we do have some things to talk about. So let's have a look.
Can I just say, for the record, I've really wanted to do stuff. Like, it's been on my desk. Look, every time I'm in this room, I've really wanted to do stuff. But between having the baby and doing a couple of other videos for my channel, it's just like, I just have had no time. I did do some stuff on New Year, though.
Did somebody say something the last 30 seconds? I just heard.
Whiny excuses.
Ouch.
Let's have a look what we've got.
Ouch.
So, who we got first? It's Mark.
Yeah.
So, tell us what you've been doing, Mark.
I've been painting Aeronautica orcs, or at least making progress on them and not getting finished with them, because orcs have to be red. Because if you're doing orc things that move fast and you're not painting them red, then you're doing it wrong.
I really like the red you've done there. That kind of quite dirty, quite gritty.
Cheers. So that was Dragon Red Army Painter Spray base coat over a white undercoat with an all-over wash of Caribou Crimson, and then a very heavy-handed dry brush of some orange that I can't remember what the name of it was.
Fire? It looks like fiery orange, maybe.
No, I can't read the name of what it is from here. I'm not
Troll Slayer, maybe? That's a bit too bright, isn't it?
It's not one of the current GW paints. It's a foundation paint from before they did layers and bases and stuff. So I bought a paint set freaking years ago. It's still
I think I bought the complete set a few years ago when they used when it was in some kind of reasonable range to be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So there's all those planes. I did a bit of dry brushing on the rocks on my Lumineth floaty rock water thing. That every time I look at it makes me wish I'd done more work on those seam lines around the middle of it and the water and the rocks, because that's just ugly as hell. But
you still can. You can always go back and take a bit on the water there.
I could do. But I'll think about it, which we'll see. The water's the next stage. After I finish dry brushing all the rocks, I'm going to go in.
I bought this Vallejo plastic putty in a little pot like that. And it only cost a couple of quid, and I just wanted to try it out. And for big gap filling, it's crap. But for that sort of stuff, it's fantastic because it comes with the standard sort of nozzle. And you just sort of go along the line, and then you wet your finger and run it along it, and it's done. It takes a little while to dry.
Drop me a link to that after this, would you?
And I've been genuinely impressed for that sort of like gap filling, seam filling sort of stuff.
All right.
With that, I found it quite good.
For
bigger stuff, it tends to contract a little bit, so you might have to do it a couple of times. But
okay, it wouldn't be too difficult to repaint over around it afterwards in Mechanicus Grey and then re-dry brush it, I suppose. So
I'm quite impressed with that stuff.
Drop me a link to that afterwards if you would. That'd be appreciated.
I did the exact same thing with the Star Wars Legion models, the Stormtroopers, around all their elbows. Not their elbows, sorry, their shoulders. There's just big gaps, it felt like. So I had something very similar. To just paint into all the ridges there or the seams.
Yeah, big stuff I use Milliput, but for little things like that, I found that little bottle has been an absolute godsend.
Well, it's fairly chunky. I mean, that's about the size of a Land Raider. It's not a small kit.
Mm-hmm. I thought you were talking about the gap for a second, and I was like, Jesus Christ.
Gap's the size of a Land Raider, Tony. What? Yeah. Should we move on before this descends into?
Okay, so let's move on then. So we've got some drunken antics here, by the looks of it.
I was quite drunk when I did this. There's some progress done. I mean, I got the yellow. I think I painted their heads white and then painted them yellow.
You did, and you got the white and the yellow mostly stayed on the helmets.
Mostly. I mean,
Yeah. I can't see them overlapping anywhere.
So rumor has it that you were very close to trashed when you were doing these, John.
no,
It
I was
was.
trashed.
It was
There's
hilarious.
no rumor about it.
John on New Year's Eve was off his face. It was brilliant.
The reason that I know I was trashed is because I said to my wife the next day, I was like, someone gave me a really generous super chat. She's like, you told me. I was like, when? She's like, you came into the bedroom at 3 a.m. and almost fell over. And I was like, okay. And then she said to me, like, and you had such and such to drink. And I was like, that doesn't sound right. And she was like, well, the empties were in the kitchen. I was like, well,
themselves.
at least I put the empties in the kitchen, right? I did something right. So I made a little bit of progress. I would like to do a few more streams. Maybe we'll get a stream on here with you guys. We do some painting soonest, because I feel like I've not done nearly as much as I want. But, I'm always painting Blood Angels. I'll get to them.
So,
It was a good night, New Year. Did you guys have a good New Year?
Yeah, my sore head the next day said that I did.
Yeah. And we got pipes here in New Year. How cool was that? I don't know if you guys missed
they,
that.
they came through on your stream very faintly. But
Very
they did
faintly,
come
yeah.
through. I had to turn the volume up a lot to hear them.
Yeah.
Mine was fairly quiet. I was indoors. I think I'd gone out and done something with the wife during the day, and just spent it pretty quietly in the evening. Yeah, it was all right.
And let's hope 2022 is the end of this bloody pandemic, because it seems
definitely.
like if we'd said a year ago that it would be it wouldn't be ended in 2021, people would have been like, fuck
They'd have been
off.
angry, but at the same time, probably not surprised either.
Yeah. So I mean, last thing to say about my photo is, like, look, all my brushes are on my table. I'm ready to go. I just need child-free time. I'll get there.
You will.
What about
Okay.
you then?
That's
Tom?
fine. That's cool.
So I've been, I've not done a lot, like we said before. It's not been that long since the last one. So I made a start on this. This is,
A blind archer.
yeah, it's supposed to be a display piece. Now, a few weeks ago, I showed you that I'd got a Cult of Paint model.
Yeah.
And
I remember
when
it,
that
yeah.
came from the Kickstarter, and over Christmas, I started.
The blending on the green on the road is very nice. I'll give you that.
I started work on her, and I'm only just sort of laying down base colours and stuff and doing a bit of. So I still need to do a lot of glazing on the skin to smooth it out. I'm near enough happy with the dress. She needs a little bit more contrast in the dark bits.
What's the point of a blindfolded archer?
Well, she's not finished there. There's actually another bit. I'm going to still on my desk. Here it is. So there's another little bit that goes with her. I don't know if you can see that. So the idea is that this
The bird is
hawk
guiding her. Right.
that's
okay.
is sort of hovering just above her. And I don't know if you've ever read in the old Forgotten Realms books and the Drizzt books.
Yeah.
You're saying his
sort
name
of that-
wrong. It's Drizzt.
Drizzt, yeah.
Dritz the word.
Yeah, all right. Well, I read that when I was 9 or whatever. Anyway, so you've got the blind ranger in that uses Hooter the owl.
Oh yeah.
And this is the same sort of idea, I think. Basically, you've got
Cool.
sort of the idea of the bird. She sees through the bird.
Was his name Montolio? remember
Yeah,
it.
something like that. No, it wasn't Mintolo the bear.
I have no idea.
No, it's Buster the bear. I mean, you're right. It was Mintolo the ranger and Buster the bear and Hooter the owl. Because it was the 80s and
Yeah, it's fair.
they weren't fully tropes by then.
I actually love that first.
Yeah,
What was it? The Dark Elf trilogy, or the one with?
because it was the second trilogy, wasn't it? Because the first
Yes.
one was the Icewind Dale.
And did you know
trilogy.
that they've just made a game about the Crystal Shard and Kessel, Archer Kessel, and that that's just come out for PlayStation 5, based on the second trilogy.
I did not.
Is this the
The remake of Dark Alliance.
Dark Alliance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not a remake though, is it?
It's not a remake, it's a sequel, and critical reviews for this game are in the doghouse.
They were supposed to release it with a split screen, but it didn't come with it, and they said they're patching it. I guess we'll see.
Because I remember the old Dark Alliance games, and I used to really like those.
Yeah, it was co-op, it was split screen. I enjoyed playing that on my
I remember playing them through on the Xbox and the PlayStation.
Yeah.
It was PS2, wasn't it? That time.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed the first trilogy. That if you've never read it, the Dark Elf trilogy, It must be
it's
like
great
25 years ago that I bought it.
Yeah.
Such a good D&D
Yeah.
book or series.
The Forgotten Realms book series I remember the most was a series called... there's two, actually. There's a series called Spellfire, about a character called Chandril who could shoot like raw magic out of her hands and absorb spells and stuff. And then there was the Time of Troubles, was it? Where the gods all went crazy.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Because that led into the Baldur's Gate.
Maestra became the goddess of magic and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Midnight became the heir to Maestra, the goddess of magic, and all sorts of crazy stuff.
Because the first Baldur's Gate set shortly after that. Because, of course, it's the heir to Baal, isn't it? And the Lord of Murder.
Yeah.
And your Shards of Baal. But
And
I love
Spirit
those games. The old Infinity Engine games.
All sorts of other craziness that I can barely remember.
So anyway, I've been working on her. I thought over Christmas I was just going to do something for a bit of fun. It's really early stages at the moment, but yeah, that's what I've been working on. Not a huge amount of painting. And then the other interesting thing. Now, last week you took the piss out of me because I spent some money, and I bought the Old Enemies bundle. And I thought it might be nice. So I was surprised how quickly it came. There it is. I was quite disappointed it just comes in a big white box.
Oh, it was like a web store exclusive box. How disappointing.
I know it is. It's quite disappointing. And I was going to put it in the Black Templars box for that Battle Force because that's got the old 3rd edition art on it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't be asked. And so this is how it looks when you get it.
2,000-point army I can see on the desk beside it. Those two
that's
models.
Yeah. That's a good 3,000 points of custodes there. Another random crap I'm working on. There's a little Collector's Assassin up there. But yeah, so that's how it comes in a big old box. Nice jumble of stuff. It is clearly the original casts and the original molds and that. You can see that these were still sculpted by hand with someone and some green stuff because there are sculpting marks in the models, which is quite interesting. Although I was a little bit disappointed to see that the big bag of bases have all got 2021 written on them, so they're not the original bases.
What size bases are they?
They're 25 mil.
They are the old size as well.
So the old size, but they're new 25 mil. Not that
that's so random that they put in the old bases in there because, I mean, I guess in tournament play it's valid to use the base size.
Well, no, it's totally valid because it is legal for you to use the bases that GW supply with the models.
Yeah.
But GW now supply Firstborn as standard with 32 mil bases, not these ones.
It's a bit weird, isn't it?
So if you wanted to use these for a modern force, just makes you buy more bases, I guess.
The flip side would have been if GW had put 32 mil bases on, people would have whinged and complained that they didn't come with the original size bases.
So for me, I'm actually pleased that they come with the 25 mil. I can always buy base extenders.
You were buying it for nostalgia. You were buying it to
exactly. I didn't buy this because I particularly needed tactical marines. They're crap. So that's how that looks, and I've just sort of like pulled them out here.
Cool.
So this is the old Landspeeder sprue. I love the sheer amount of dead space on this sprue.
Yeah, compared to modern ones, absolutely.
Compared to modern sprues. There's our tactical marines in a similar way. So for all you young'uns, this is how they used to come, and you just got a body and some legs, and you could do whatever you liked with it.
And mix and match the torsos and the legs and the arms.
However you like. That's content. All sorts of random auspexes and crap. There's all the arms. Look, it's just a gun. Do what you want with it. Try and line it up.
Customizable.
I was going to say that's when you actually, if you want to put the gun in the hand, you actually have to snip off the handle of the gun and glue it. And when I was like a 10-year-old kid doing this, you have no idea how many guns just like came off the arms.
Or they were all pointing at slightly weird angles.
Yeah.
Or the arms that you're positioned to hold the bolt like this are just ever so slightly out of kilter from each other. Yeah.
So that was that.
Good times.
If anybody, this is the Dark Eldar sprue, and they are still Dark Eldar, not Drukhari.
Yeah.
I remember this. I was so excited when this sprue came out. They were a really interesting model, really kind of like unreasonably spiky, but other than the unreasonable amount of spikes, quite plain, and I like that aesthetic. I really liked the Dark Eldar at the time when they first come out. And you do get a couple of heavy weapons in there as well, which is nice. So you do get each one, because you get 20 Dark Eldar, and you get, I think it works, I think you get 5 splinter cannons.
Okay.
So, because each one of these sets of 4 has got a splinter cannon on it.
A set of 4. Okay, fair enough.
Which is pretty nice. So that was them. This is interesting. This is the instruction booklet. And if you look, this is a modern instruction booklet. But I think, and I haven't got the old one to hand, I've long lost my 3rd edition box set. But I think these cutout images are from that original set. Because they read like they are. But the disclaimers,
well, like you said, it wouldn't say Dark Eldar otherwise. So
yeah, so the disclaimers and things like that are all 2021 trademark. But I do believe they've actually sort of cut the old images out there and put that on there, which is quite nice. There's the other side if anybody cares. I like you used to get these a lot with this kind of like almost a photograph of the models in this kind of grayscale. You used to see that a lot in the old catalogues as well.
Yeah.
So that was those. And then there is the old land speeder. Now you can see where I was using a bit of filler to fill in the world's largest panel gap.
Is that the filler stuff you were just mentioning?
Yeah. So that gap was over 1 millimeter, and it's just a hole.
I think you built your land speeder wrong.
No, they're terrible. I remember building it at the time, and because I was building it up, and I was thinking, I remember these being awful to try and build. This isn't that bad. And then I put the top chassis there, and I was like, this gap is huge. But if you look at the front, it's lined up perfectly, and the back is lined up perfectly. But the way it lines up with the chassis, there's this huge fucking panel gap.
Okay, fair enough.
And I remember them being there at the time because I've got my old one kicking about, and that's still got this huge panel gap in it. And of course, when I was however old I was, I just thought, fuck it, painted it.
Yeah.
And they were awful, and you can tell that these were all hand sculpted.
So this is a basic land speeder. So what? It just had a multi-melt and no other weapon.
Well, you can have a like, multi-melter or a heavy bolter.
Or a heavy bolter,
yeah. No underslung weapon.
And those little flaps at the back open up so you can see, I think it's supposed to see the engine, but actually if you leave them to open up, they're constantly flopped open and you can't keep them. And you could magnetize it, but they don't fit very well.
Or that's where you put the Typhoon rockets if you're playing the Typhoon version.
I was going to say, so what if you'd bought this kit back in the day? You correct me if I'm wrong here, because I had a land speeder. Were the weapons not metal?
No, they weren't. If you bought the land speeder Tornado or the Typhoon, the assault cannon and the rocket pods and that, they were metal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the Top Gun, this was a big deal because this was a new model that came out with this starter set. Because before then you had the all-metal land speeder, which was massively nose heavy and used to immediately fall over and explode into 1,000 pieces.
Yeah, I remember it.
And this was the replacement for that, and it was light years better.
Which, incidentally, Forge World redid in resin recently.
Which is really nice, actually. I really like them. They've got really weird weapon options, though, which is the problem. But yeah, so this is quite a cool model, but building it really showed just how far the quality of Games Workshop's kits have come on.
Oh, yeah.
Nostalgia goggles can only take you so far.
Yeah.
They were shit.
Yeah.
They were the best in the world at the time. But
And
compared to what we've got now...
They are still good, but compared, yes.
Compared to what we've got now, they are terrible. They've come on so far, the quality of the kits. You know, this is purely for nostalgia.
I'd still rather have one of these plastic kits than a piece of fine cast, for example.
Well, Failcast was something slightly different, wasn't it? That was I
a
prefer the metal to the Failcast.
Miniatures.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just found it quite an interesting thing. I just stuck this together, and I couldn't believe how much of a pain in the arse it was. Because the other thing these all used to do, and to be fair, the new ones are just as bad for this, because here it is immediately snap off the base.
So I never did that. What I always did with my land speeders was instead of them having the option to snap off like that, what I'd do is I'd always drill out that hole a little bit larger than it normally is, break off the snappy bit off the top anyway, because it's always going to snap off, and then the thick shaft of the actual flying stand itself goes in, and that's a solid. That's not snapping off. That's not going to it's a lot easier.
I put a fuck off great big magnet on it.
I did think that's what you've got there. Yeah, that works too.
Really? Is the magnet strong enough to not have it sort of like wobble around or fall off? Okay.
Smash!
I don't think I'm going to get that to come off, to be honest.
What size magnet did you use?
Well, I think that's about 3mm by about 6mm on the bottom of there.
Okay.
And then that one's about 5mm by 3mm. So it's got sort of about a kilo's weight on it it can take.
Yeah.
So when I say fuck off great big, they're the same size ones as I used to hold on the arms or the supremacy armor.
Okay.
I just... What have we got lying about? All these fuck off great big ones, that'll do.
Yeah. Nice. It's a little bit disappointing, I think, that you don't, like... if you'd got the original box, even if you'd got, like, a piece of the original box art, I would have been super excited, but the fact it just comes in a web store exclusive box...
I was really hoping to see something, like even if it was just the box art on a bit of paper, because they
do that in the new editions, don't they?
Well, they did, but they reprinted the box art on a bit of A4 for that Black Templars box.
Okay.
Oh, and you get it inside the box,
which is inside the box,
divider or something. Yeah.
And it doesn't have any writing on it or anything really, so there's no reason they couldn't have stuck a copy of that in there as well.
Yeah, just for the thing.
Just for the fun. I was a bit disappointed they didn't, but it was fun. I don't feel that it was a rip-off or anything like that. I think it was good value, and it has been quite fun rebuilding those old kits.
Fair enough.
Nice.
The other thing I've done is I've started buying some Eldar up in anticipation of all the stuff going on.
Have you?
Yeah, I've ordered 3 of the current Eldar start collecting box because the saving you get from that is close on to 50%. Yeah, 3 of them.
Wow.
So that's 3 units of Wraith Guard or Wraith Blades, 3 War Walkers, 3 Wraith Lords, and 3 Farseers, which is a bit redundant, but I figure I'm going to convert the Farseers into Warlocks by chopping off the little helmet things, or sell them on to somebody who wants them for, I don't know, £5 or something. But they're about a 50% saving in the start collecting box. I value all the units in there, and the start collecting box is going to get discontinued, and they're going to replace it with the combat patrol, which will be nowhere near as good a net saving.
I missed the old start collecting Thousand Suns, and I wanted that because a Ahriman, a unit of rubrics, that's a pretty good box. Whereas the new combat patrol one, who the fuck will buy a combat patrol with 1,000 Zangors in it? You can't even run that many Zangors.
So yeah, I just wanted to get it before it went away, basically.
Well, that's a good plan. It's a good plan, yeah. The combat patrol boxes have been a bit underwhelming, haven't they?
Some of them have been better than others, haven't they?
They've been mixed in their contents, which is fair enough. But the thing that bugs me about them is that they've reduced the amount that you save by buying them in the boxes that they're in than the old start collecting boxes were.
Some of the old start collecting boxes were excellent. Some of them were a bit ropey, but...
I mean, I appreciate Games Workshop wants to make money, but...
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the Custode start collecting box is going to be, because
it'll be 3
I reckon it's just going to be that new Blade Guard guy. It'll be just that character, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
And you can buy the same character on his own, or in this start collecting box. The same,
and a single plastic Contemptor Dreadnought.
Yeah. Just before they get nerfed to all hell, right? Henry Cavill will buy one.
The nasty plastic one. You know, they can only have a multi-melter or a Cares pattern assault cannon.
Yeah, it'll be one of them.
Can Custodes even run those?
Yes,
yeah, they can. In the Codex, is... let me show you this. This is the Codex.
The old Codex, not the new one.
The old Codex.
The new one isn't pre-ordering.
This is the old Codex, and you can see how thin it is, because the only options they have are Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought.
Yeah.
Big bit of art. Virtus Praetors, look. Then Venerable Land Raider.
Yeah.
They've only got, hang on, let me count these data sheets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Silence in it now as well.
They've only got about 10 or 11 data sheets. And things like, some of them are just Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought, which is that nasty plastic kit, or a Land Raider, because everybody thinks Land Raiders are great.
Yeah.
But that's literally their only anti-tank in the entire army if you only use that. is a Land Raider.
Yeah. It's a good thing they got the extra shit from the Forge World.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because we were talking last episode about the way things are going to develop, and a lot of people are very upset with the leaked, or not leaked, but they come in the Shadow Throne box for the axes because Custodes used to rely very heavily on their axes for anti-tank. You teleport in your Terminators and they just go and punch the tank because they punch at strength 8. But they've nerfed them all to damage 2. We're saying that they've changed them all to damage 2, not damage D3, which means that suddenly they now have no way of dealing with anything with -1 damage.
Yeah.
Because every weapon in their codex, more or less, is damage 2 or that Land Raider.
And Land Raider is, it's just...
Yeah. So more reliant on Forge World than ever, unless they've given them some other magical way of having anything more than damage 2 in their whole codex.
I'm sure that new captain had damage 3 on the late data sheet.
Their special character, Trajan Valoris, his axe is damage 3. But
I have seen an article in preview somewhere that says he is now bonkers. Not quite Drago level bonkers, but still bonkers.
He's all right. We don't know his full rules. We only know... So when they repackaged him into the 9th edition box so they can put a couple of quid on the price, why you can't buy Tau Hammerheads at the moment, they put that thing out saying how good they are, so everyone bought up the old boxes so they can re-release them for 3 or 4 quid more than they had them before. With my tinfoil hat on. But anyway, so they've got the little data sheet that comes on the back of the instructions from the new box.
Yeah.
And he's not really changed that much. People were saying how good he was, but actually what he's got is an extra attack, an extra wound, and the damage on the axe is flat 3.
Fair enough.
It's all right.
Sure, if they release Dante with an extra wound, an extra attack, and damage to the axe...
Nobody's going to say no to that, are they?
Re-releasing Dante. Time to take a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least he's toughness 5.
Mm-hmm.
But he's always been tough. He's always been good.
Always been toughness 5, I think.
So, I think it's a bit of an interesting one. That. So yeah, I think that's where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Are we on time? I don't know. I wasn't timing it.
Yes,
yeah, we're good. We're good.
Look at that.
Hopefully, people enjoy.
This is how professional we are.
We're not to a time limit, so yeah, we're on time. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Not like the bell's going to ring and that's the end of the session. Maybe we could get a bell though. That might be fun.
We could get a bell. That'd be quite
cool.
Awful. I think on that note, whereas we've just clearly just jabbering now, total bollocks. I think we should probably call it a day.
Usual.
As more so than usual. I'm going to have to put a timestamp for now talking bollocks again, like I did a couple of episodes again. So, just as a reminder to everybody, please like our video, subscribe to the channel. We are trying to grow it. We are steadily building up our numbers. We will continue to put out mediocre content from 3 middle-aged men who'd like to talk about toy soldiers.
Tell us what's coming up on the channel next then, Tony.
So what we've got coming up in the channel next. So our next video, we should have a live stream coming out this time next week.
No. By the time you guys watch this, that would have already happened last week.
So the live stream was last week, where we're going to talk about the chapter approved stuff. It hasn't happened yet, but for you it will have happened a week ago. That's confusing.
Yeah.
And we'll link it up above if you didn't watch it last week. There you go.
And then
our next episode, we have not yet decided what the fuck we're going to do yet. So there we go.
That's just how organised we are. It's not that we haven't decided yet. It's we've got so many great topics that we can't make
more options and suggestions for options of things that you want us to discuss and cover would be absolutely welcome.
Yeah, and if you just want to, write stuff in the comment like why is Tony slowly turned blue throughout this video? And it's because my lights run out of batteries. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
By all means.
Thank
so
you
have a lovely 2 weeks.
watching.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye everybody.
Bye. Nice. That was a cool episode.
Yeah, bit sort of petered off at the end there, but
I think it did a little bit, but I also think that was one of our more informative episodes. We actually had a point.
Yeah, I mean, only dedicated fans are going to be watching for an hour and a half, so